It was in 1985. I was 19 years old, and um, some friends of mine, or my friend and his brother, we decided to move to another state, and it was like an adventure and find work and live in the desert, in Arizona and from Washington State, where I am right now, this beautiful area. Who would ever want to move to the desert after being here, right? But uh and so we went down there, and the truck broke down a couple times, and we ended up having to fix it, and we ran out of money pretty much except for gas money. And so by the time we got where we were going, we didn't have money to buy food. And so we started going hungry, and we asked churches, and none of them would donate any money. And we didn't have a state ID, so we couldn't go to the food bank because we were from Washington, not Arizona. And so we went without food for probably 2 weeks. And um, it was really interesting because after a short while, we weren't hungry. Should uh After a short while, we were drinking water from like gas stations, which nowadays, now that I live so purely, like all organic, non-GMO, a special water from a Kangen machine from Japan, structured and oxygenated and specific acidic levels. I do all this stuff now that I would never have drinking water from a gas station sink back then. I mean, I wouldn't do that now. But so what I noticed is that even at the time that all of us, we went without food for so long that we didn't have any thought. We were just like in this state of being. We had nowhere to go, no responsibilities. We didn't have a job yet. And it was like we were just, we just had, we were just would drive or sit, and there we just weren't thinking. And but out of that no thinking, I got this idea all of a sudden to go to the blood bank and to give blood. And it ended up being a plasma bank where they spin the plasma out of your blood. So I had this big idea out of nowhere, just one idea. And so we looked it up in this big, thick phone book because it was in a right a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, this huge city. And so we went there, and they first thing they did was hand us clipboards with a form that says you have to eat 3 square meals a day for 1 week at least in order to give blood or to give plasma for them to pull blood from you. And so uh, we signed it saying that we had eaten so that we could get money so that we could eat. And they also had a big rack of bread sitting over there, and we could smell it through the whole place. And so so we signed it and went and started eating and waiting for our turn. And when we went back there, there was 4 rows of reclining seats where they plug you in. And uh, so there's about 60 seats or reclining seats. They weren't all full, but there was a lot of people in there. And so I didn't think anything of it except for when I saw how big that needle was. And it's like as big as a fork prong, and hollow, so they can pull blood, and so it'll vacuum it out. And so uh about, I don't know, like 20, maybe a minute into it, I don't remember, but it was pretty soon after the blood started leaving my body. All of a sudden I started getting faint. And at that point in my life, I never had fainted. But I knew that I was going to pass out. And I was like focusing with everything I had to try to stay awake. And my head just turned to the side, and this guy way over there with a white in a white coat with a clipboard. He looked right up into my eyes like he was writing. He goes, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I started, yeah, I started shaking my head no, and I just exploded out of my body, like exploded out of my body, like ejected. And uh so I suppose right then I died, I think. And so I exploded out of my body, and I remember feeling like this, and like I could see my body in my mind, and I said, "I'm finally free." And then my body just dissolved. Like it just was gone. And then everything was gone, including my remembrance that I was John and that I was just on the earth. Like everything dissolved. And I was going like a million miles an hour, like at a 45-degree angle, kind of. So there was an angle there, and there's bugs out here. Um, so there was an angle. I was flying, and then this like freedom, like burst from the center of my being, like outwards, this ecstatic freedom. Strangely enough, it wasn't overbearing. It was just like boom, and this freedom, it was just pouring out of me like forever. And then this joy from the freedom just blew off, and it was like this freedom and joy were shining from the center of my being like forever. And uh and so here I feel freedom, and I'm feeling the freedom and the joy, and I'm flying a million miles an hour, and that's all. I'm not thinking or anything. And then I inverted my attention. I got curious, and I started like kind of went in and looked around, and I was like in this. At first, I thought it was my body. I was in this energy that was speckling like this, and it was three colors, like just like a few colors. And I don't really remember like white, red, and something, like kind of like colors that I don't really recognize. And so I'm looking around, and my energy was folding on itself. What I thought was my body was, or what I thought, well, anyway, I didn't know till later because I had to. At first, I just experienced, and then later I thought about it. And so after the whole thing, and so I'm like looking around, and then I focused. It was folding on itself like that as it was traveling, like folding, like on itself. It was odd. And then I like focused in the direction I was headed, and I I had I didn't think human thoughts anymore, but I had a curiosity as to where I was going, without human words. And in that instant, everything stopped, including the feeling of freedom and joy. Just, and I was below um, I was like below this massive ball it was like massive, and like the size of the moon or something, and not, maybe not quite that big. And I could see the line of energy going into the ball. And so like as soon as I had the curiosity, everything stopped, and I didn't go in. And I got this upload that was my answer to my curiosity. And I got this vision. I could see this thing. It was pressing on the energy edge of this universe or this dimension. It was pressing in, like pushing on a balloon, like pushing in, and it was pushed into it and just sitting there. And I got this upload that it had injected a piece of its energy all the way in and created this body. Uh, well, I may have added that later when I was thinking about it, the idea of a body, but anyway, and that it was retracting its energy back into itself from this world. And this is the upload. Basically, that's the basic upload I got. I'm not remembering if I added the idea of a body to that later or what, but I do remember the vision of it injecting its energy and it retrieving it, like pulling it back in. And then um uh everything like shifted like and I was like in this void and with no stars and I could it was like I was an awareness that speckling body didn't was gone and I was just like this pure awareness and I could see the outline of this body like over there sideways on this side. I could see it over there and part of my awareness was in it. I didn't even know anything, by the way. I was just still in a state of being. I could see that my awareness is here and partially in that thing. And there was these big blasts of energy going through the outline of what is this body. Poof. And when it went through, I could feel it in the part of my awareness that was in it. And after one, two, maybe three bursts of energy through the form, I my awareness went fully into that form and was like looking what I could say now, looking out its eyes, but I was aware from the form. And um, so I'm recalling this as I'm thinking about it here. And so um, I still didn't think anything. And then I heard this like sound way down in the void over that way, kind of in the nothing. And it I heard it, it caught my attention, and when my attention went on it, I traveled from here to here. Bonk. I just was there, like teleporting or something. So my awareness transferred from here to there. And now that I'm thinking about it, it was my awareness and not the form, the outline I transferred into. Now that this is the first time actually I thought of that, or that it came to my mind, is that I'm like traveling as an awareness. Like, and so I went boom, boom, and I'm there. Okay, I wasn't traveling yet. And then I heard another noise, and it sounded like I had the slight vision of like this thing, and it was ricocheting and then coming into the void. Like, and it caught my attention. My curiosity was like on it, my awareness, like, and then I transferred from here to there, and then I was traveling, like movement. And it was like this white fog color, kind of like a density to it. I couldn't see through it, and I was traveling through it. And then, so I'm just like, la, 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 I'm just traveling through it. And, and then I hit my right leg in this world. I ran into it in that dimension. So it'd be like in this space was my leg, but in this, but I couldn't see it, but I hit it. And then as soon as I hit it, my whole awareness went into the body in this world. And so it was like the dimensions were merged or crossed right there that at that point. And I think of it now, and the whole thing was orchestrated by that big ball and or by the larger me. And the whole thing was set up. I didn't have any control of any of it or conscious awareness of it or choice really on this level. It just was a setup. Like, and so when I was aware of my body, I became aware of when I hit and I went into my body, I became aware of the presence of a bunch of people. I still didn't have my understanding of this world booted back up yet. And so, oh yeah, now I remember. Uh, so when I became aware of my body, it was different. I became aware of my body and I was peeing my pants or my shorts because it was so hot out. I was wearing shorts and thongs and a button-up shirt that was unbuttoned partway. And I I got a little flash of, or I was aware that there was people and I got a flash of embarrassment. Like I still hadn't booted up, but this thing triggered inside of me of peeing my pants in front of people, even though I still wasn't aware of myself yet as John on Earth. And I went, ooh, and I clenched up trying to stop it from happening. And somebody pushed me down back on the chair and said, oh, I said, did I pee my pants? Like, and someone said, whoever it was said no. And at that point, my eyes were open and he was slapping my face like this, bang, bang, like, what is your name? What is your name? Trying to bring my awareness back, right? And I was just in a state of being still after that burst of energy, like, did I pee my pants? And then I was blank again, and he's trying to bring me back. And I got this flash of irritation that went through my body, or it was like a little flash, went right through my whole body from the bottom up of irritation from getting slapped, I guess. And so I stopped my head from going back and forth, and I looked him right in the eyes, and I focused to give him what he wanted. And when I did, let's see, uh, it's been so long. I'm like, it's fading. Which side is what? So I focused. Oh yeah, it was on this side. And this piece of energy, like that big or so, shaped like a long capsule, kind of, it appeared when I focused to answer him, I saw it in my mind. It appeared, and then the tip of it plugged in right here, like click, but it was still sticking way out there, like this. And when it plugged in, I had the information. It was like it was energy well, I'll get to that in a minute. And so it plugs in and I said my name. And then he started slapping me again. Bang, bang. Where are you? Like, and oh yeah, and then somebody stepped in with a smelling salt and and I was like, ugh, ammonia, I think it is. And I got that irritation flash again and I focused to answer him. I looked him right in the eyes to give him what he wanted. And this other piece of energy that was shorter appeared on this side up here. And it had this swirling energy going. It was white opaque and it was going back and forth inside of it. It appeared and goes click. And so now I have these two, what I had all of my knowledge of this life in me back, in that now that those two things were plugged back in. And I've never heard of that before or since. I'm the only one that I've ever heard say that. and and so now I have all my information. And uh so let's see. Oh yeah, so this guy talks to this guy and he says, should we take another pint, right? And that guy says, yeah, it won't happen again. And so they unplugged it, took the bag away, they spun it out, came back, drained my blood back in, and then they took another one. And there's a whole process that they were doing. And the whole time I'm laying there feeling and remembering everything that just happened. Oh yeah, and during while that was happening, I just had a flash. My friend was behind me in that row behind me against the wall, and I was in the two rows up. There was a row here, and two rows in the middle facing that way. And I was facing away, and he was behind me against the wall, he was offset one, and he was like, John, John, John. He was freaking out, but he was plugged in and he couldn't get up. And I remember he was like, freaking out that and as a side note, about 20 years later, well, to start with, I didn't tell anyone what happened, not even my friend or his brother, who was kind of my friend. I don't know. I just knew his brother, not him really. And I never told anybody about it because, well, I was still thinking about it and mulling it over, and I just never told anyone for a long time. And so, but later on, if I jump 20 years into the future, when my friend went his own way, we parted ways and like went on to our lives. And 20 years later, we came back together. I actually got him a job and a place to live on Orcas Island when he needed a hand. And we were talking about when I died, or what people call an NDE, because you came back. And he says, yeah, after they shocked your heart 3 times. And I didn't know the whole time that they had nailed me 3 times in a row with a electrocuted, like jump started my heart. I didn't even know the whole time.
How
And
long were you out for?
I don't know. It felt like a long time, but maybe a minute or something. I don't know. I never, nobody talked about it. They just took, they finished the process and then gave me a piece of paper. I got up and there was a puddle of urine in the right there. And then I was like, they lied to me, but somehow I didn't feel it until I got up and I took off out of there, right? And got my $20 and then went to the truck and changed. And uh yeah. So um so at that point in my life, I had trained in martial arts since I was 13 till I was 19. And I had seen masters. I had had two different teachers at that point. And uh, I had seen masters do demonstrations like breaking arrows on the hollow of their throat, 7 at a time, like shattering these wooden shafted arrows without leaving a red mark and bending rebar on their throat. And then we try to bend it back after it bent, you know, with people pushing on it, and they'd lean forward and bend it, and we couldn't bend it back. And so I had seen some pretty wild stuff, and so I knew for sure that we have abilities that, we can develop. We're capable of things that normal people aren't able to do, but if you train, you can do something supernatural, which is probably normal to them, but supernatural to us. And so, um, so when I was thinking about what happened, I'd already had teachers. And so my mind was, I wanted to understand, because when I left my body and John and the earth dissolved and I was in a state of being, it, it was as if I never had not been that being. That's just, I didn't have a reference point. It was like I never had not been that. When I think of, later when I thought back on it, the feeling was as if that's what I always was. And so I had some big questions after my programs booted back up, like, well, what am I? If I'm this other being. And I was thinking about, okay, well, I forgot, this whole situation dissolved as this being, as if I never had not been that being. What am I? And so I started searching for teachers, but not martial art teachers. I didn't know what kind of teacher it would be, but I was hunting, literally actively researching and hunting. I was in the back then there was no computer. I don't think there wasn't what we have now. And I was in the libraries researching. At that point I had found out it was near death experience. And so I was researching that and reading everything I could find. So I didn't find anyone that had the experience I had. Everyone met somebody or they communicated with loved ones that have died or something. And they felt this love, this and I've had so many experiences. It's just welling up inside me to tell you about them, about all these things. Everything I'm saying is reminding me of something I've experienced since then. And so I hunted and hunted for a teacher, and how I did that was I asked everyone, whether I knew them or not, if they knew what a near-death experience was, and if they knew anyone that had had one, and if um, they had any special training, like with any a teacher. And I don't remember exactly how I would ask that. I was always really super excited, like I was on it. And uh finally I ran into somebody who I didn't even know. It was my friend's friend who came over while I was at his house. And he was an older guy. We were more teenage, at the end of teenage years. And he was like in his 20s. And I am I immediately asked him if he had any teachers or anything that taught any kind of internal or special knowledge. And he says, "Yes, I do." And boom, I was on him. And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, calm down. Like, I'll talk with you in a minute." And he was talking to my friend. And then he wrote down an address. And he didn't even like try to connect with me, probably because I was too intense. And he handed me this address and he says, "Don't tell them I sent you." Because I was just too intense. But he knew that I really wanted to know, right? And so I went to the address, and it's this place I would walk by all the time, but I never noticed it. And it was like a church. Look, there was a realty office, and it looked like a church. It was a old church building, and on the big sign it said Washington Psychic Institute, and then it said Church of Divine Man. And I was like, "Oh, all right." And so I went to reach for the door handle, and I just couldn't grab the door handle for some reason. I was like, it was like this step I was about to take that's going to change my whole life. And so I left and went to the store, and this is before I was eating organic, and I grabbed a Snicker bar and a Dr. Pepper, all sugar, right? And I like slammed it. My body calmed down. I ate it fast, drank it, and then I went back and walked in. And I looked upstairs, there was nobody. I went downstairs, there was nobody. And then I had this feeling somebody was looking at me, like reading me. I didn't even know what that was yet. And so I was like, so I just sat down and I was like, "Okay, go ahead." I actually said it out loud. I just let him read me. And then some lady walked in. This guy showed up out of nowhere. He went in front of her. He talked with her. She left, and he walked over and looked me right in the eyes, and he says, "Hi, I'm Peter." And that began my training of energy work, clairvoyant training, working with my own system, discover, the very thing I was looking for is to discover what I am, and, what I am and what I am in relationship to the rest of what is, like what is going on here, right? And and so I started training. That was in 19 it's the end of 85, I think. Or no, no, I think it was the end of 86, because I didn't really start training until I was 20. And I actually kind of forgot. It was somewhere right there though, 2021 I started training. And uh I trained for 2.5 years, energy work with myself, doing it with other people, clearing their entire systems, how to clear out buildings, land, how to harness frequency, how to create frequency, how to communicate with beings without bodies, how to communicate with the higher self or the source self of anyone else. Starting Everything starts with yourself. And so you work with your own system, you discover it within yourself, and then you extend to outside of that because you can't really understand. You can only recognize in another what you've recognized within yourself. Like, and so my training began. I trained for a while. It opened up a big can of worms because I had a lot of problems. And those are running programs. And so for the next like 15 years, I was trying to do cleanup, right? Like end running programs that were self-destructive and just dysfunctional um and then I started looking for other energy work institutes. And so I found well, I was already in martial arts, so I found when I was 24 this stuff called Wild Goose Qigong. It's an entire system that where you're doing healing work with energy, but with movement. Like, and then so that helped expand me a little bit, gave me another frame of reference and then I went to therapeutic touch and I learned that system that gave me another frame of a sort of what I started realizing was that there's a base formula of why each system works. And the base formula is you. And how our design works is why any way we approach something, it functions in the way we expect it to, or that we design it to function. Like every system was created by somebody and they designed it. And there's a reason that design works. And so then I became a Reiki master, which was really easy at that point because I was so advanced with energy work. And then I found Spring Forest Qigong. And this guy was a grand master that did a simplified creation, like an entire system for Americans, and he moved to Missouri. And I learned his system before I went and got certified. Like I got all his video courses, and at that point I could I was self-taught, and I totally discovered his system and figured it out, like and was using his system on people, clearing their energy systems and doing healing work. And then I found someone in Seattle that would certify me, and I went to that class, and I was more advanced than him at that point, the actual teacher. And so I sat in the very back corner and I just tuned into everybody. And I could tell if people were comprehending what he was saying or not. And if they weren't, I'd raise my hand and I'd ask a key question that would give the information to everybody that he was missing, that he was forgetting to add, or he didn't have the awareness to feel his impact and to know he needed to dial people in better. And so I got certified in that too. And so what it comes down to really is that our intuition is our inner voice. It's the voice of the deeper us, the us beyond this life, but that it's the larger us that lives forever beyond time and space, the true energy being we are. This is the real us. And so, but this is a new creation. It's a new life. And so that part of us doesn't interfere with what we choose. That's what we call free will. We can live an entire life not remembering the relationship with our deeper self and just think that my name's John and I'm a guy and from America and I'm on Earth. If we even remember we're on a planet, we're so busy surviving. And and so um, what I discovered is that there's this communication happening from the deeper part of us. It's already there. Actually, to broaden that, what I discovered is anything anyone's looking for when it comes to the internal understanding of who they are and what everything really is, this design right here is functioning 24/7, whether we're conscious or unconscious of the processes. And that what we're really after is becoming aware of what already is in full function now. It's already in it's full blown already functioning. Otherwise, we couldn't even talk. It's the whole thing's happening. We're getting images and feelings, and the whole thing's happening. But what's happened in society is that the owner's manual was plucked out of our hand at birth, and a new one was stuck in our hands, saying that you are your gender, this is your program, this is how you respond in every situation, this is your place, this is what you do, and it starts from the family outwards. And so we build an entire identity without referencing our actual true nature. Like, and so now we're this identity, and I call it the mistaken identity. Because and since we are made of source energy, the very energy of life itself that creates universes and dimensions and atoms and bodies, and we literally are made of source energy. And when we focus, we're wielding source energy, which is infinite creative potential. And so we focus, we hold an image, and we generate a feeling, and we dial in a frequency, the frequency of our image and our feeling. And then it's like we have a psychic immune system that repel, if what we hold as true for ourself. This is the way this design was created, this thing here, the multidimensional interface with this world, is our design is open-ended. We're not a dog or a cat that can't not bark and can't not meow. We're open-ended, and whatever we hold as true is for real true for us. And the psychic immune system is a system that magnetically repels all information that does not confirm what you know to be true. And it allows through what does confirm it. And so now we have a seamless creational process happening. We hold something as true for real, solid, and then it's like driving a car. At first, we have to really pay attention, and then we dial it in, and now we don't even have to pay attention anymore. We literally can go 10 miles without even looking at the roads. It's like, who the heck was driving? You know, like how did I get here already? And uh it's that deeper part of us. Once we dial in the program, that deeper part of us does it through this level of itself, because really there's no separation. And so we have an exact position that we play. We have the most blessed position, because all we do is focus, we assess, focus. There's a feeling about it. The charge is the juice behind aligning that and materializing it as your life. And I call it frequency resonant alignment. It's a constant natural process we all do. And so we got our hands on like this infinite creative potential. And most of the time we're so caught up in our lives, we're we're taking this infinite power and we're creating a bad day with this infinite potential. It's like, how are you wielding infinite power right now? It's like, well, that depends on what you're focusing on and what you're generating on a feeling level. That's how you're wielding it. And so what I've decided or noticed is that we really need to know how this works.
Exactly.
What, yeah, what we are and how this system functions. And the core of it is the primary relationship between you and you, because the source you is dialed directly, fully conscious, never separated, and always knows what it is. And we're like the next level. It's like a trinity. There's the giant source of ocean of life, and then there's the next source creation, which is the source of us. And then so it's like a trinity. It goes boom, boom, boom. And so life grows itself. You look anywhere, life increases itself. It's the nature of nature. And so we are that very thing. We're like little godlets that if we wake up to what we are, we can wield consciously source power, the power we're made of, the power that holds us in existence, and the power that we wield with every focus and every thought and every feeling. And so basically the entire culture, social system and culture, even worldwide, except for rare exceptions or little tiny subgroups within the larger collective, we've been taught to use our system in a way that um, it conflicts with the way it's designed to function. And so what I've done is created a website and 18 different classes on awareness development, live Zoom classes, and like I do energy work with people to help clear the clutter out and to help them and give them like techniques to maintain, to become more aware of their own system and to be able to maintain it, to 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 start understanding how it functions. Because that starts with simply turning off your thought at will, no matter what's going on. And then whatever you were focusing on that's creating that emotion within you or that feeling about what you're focusing on or how you feel in relationship to it, when you turn your thoughts off, it dissolves. It only takes like 3 breaths and your entire system is reset. And now you focus again, and then you have another feeling about what you're focusing on. And so the biggest gift I could share with anyone is that that's a free course on my website because we have to know how to control, how to deactivate our mind or to turn it off at will, or we won't have any control within our system. It's the first move. And then the next one is how to reverse contraction or stress, how to interrupt it, pattern interrupt, and train your system to open, to dilate instead of contract, which it ends up being a full-time job at first, even for me to this day. When you take a deep breath, your system dilates. As simple as that. As for turning, your thoughts normally will settle, but if you have a big charge going on and a lot of unprocessed stuff from your day, there's other ways to turn off your thought, to stop it. And that's on my free um online course. But yeah.
And where can we find it? If you can say the
Uh
website.
it's kadam.com. And kadam means to be of spiritual service in all the ancient languages. And it's KHADHAM. And it's kadam.com.
That's quite a good one because it also rhymes.
Yeah,
So
I
also
didn't know
one,
at the time. That's a
but it
name
was well
someone, yeah,
chosen.